Kia ora everybody, welcome to another lockdown lesson. So in the first lesson that we did, we covered a lot of beats. In the second and third lesson that we did, we covered a lot of fills, and then we kind of made up our own beats to put with them. This lesson, what we're doing is we are combining the two. We've got a sheet here with the really catchy title of 10 drum beats with 1 bar drum fills, sheet 2. Okay, I didn't come up with a name for these sheets, but there you go. That's what it looks like. If you can see it, I have the link for it. Obviously, I'll send it out to you, and I'll have hopefully each example either along the bottom of the screen or next to me or something like that, so you'll be able to see what I'm playing. Before we even get started, this sheet has obviously a combination of beats and fills. So beats are the things that we're using the hi-hats, the snare drum, and the bass drum to play, and then the fills are when we start to explore more around the drum kit. Those sorts of things. This sheet has a lot of tom twos. Now, I talked about this in the first video, possibly, or the second one. My drum kit, as you can probably tell already, doesn't have a tom 2. Okay? So when I play these fills and they say, play tom 2, I'm going to play tom 1 instead. So a lot of the fills will be going snare, tom 1, tom 2, floor tom. So I'll just be going snare, tom 1, floor tom. So I'm just sort of adjusting which drums I'm playing on to suit the drum kit that I'm using. Now, another thing that a few people have been asking me about is that to do with the fact that they don't actually have drums at home. So I'm just going to give you a quick little demonstration on how you can still play the drums without having drums. Okay, take it away, blue shirt Andy. Thanks, black t-shirt Andy. There are lots of ways that we can make drums at home. The main thing to remember is that we want to have whatever we're playing laid out in the right places. So the same places that would be laid out on a drum kit that we're playing on. The sound is really not that important. Obviously, you're not going to get the same sound as a drum kit from just using things around your house. So don't worry too much about the sound, but worry more about where everything is positioned. If they're laid out next to each other, they're not too far away, or that sort of thing. So I'm going to run through one way that you can do it with a couch. You can set up your own drums with a couch and some cushions. So here's a couch. You can see, hopefully you can still see me. Hopefully you can still hear me as well. It's just started to pour down with rain, so hopefully that's not making my voice sound too quiet. So here we go. So we've got a couch here. Hopefully you all have one of these at home. And all we're going to do is we're going to put cushions like this. Putting 2 there. I'm going to put 2 down there like that. Now you might already start to see what I'm doing here. We've got 2 drums at the bottom, 2 drums at the top. So we've got snare drum, tom 1, tom 2, floor tom. The other 2 parts of the drum kit that we need to lay out are the hi-hats and the bass drum. What I've actually done here is I've drawn out which drums go where. So you can kind of follow along. You obviously don't have to label them, but it's really handy if you're just getting to know where each drum needs to sit. So hi-hats over to our left. Then we've got the snare. Check out my artwork. It's pretty cool. See that? The snare is going to go right in front of us. Tom 1 is up there. Tom 2 across here. And then floor tom down next to the snare around that way. One more is the bass drum, which is just something we're going to lay on the ground so your foot can kind of tap on it. Okay, so I'll kind of show you how this works. Also, if you don't have drumsticks, you can find some other things around the house to use, maybe chopsticks, or cutlery, maybe, depending on, you don't want anything that's going to actually damage your household items. Your family might not be too impressed. It's really pouring down with rain now, so hopefully you can still hear me. I'm just going to demonstrate how we play these things. You want a seat facing opposite them, foot's on the bass drum like we do. So that's our right foot on the bass drum. Left foot's over underneath where the hi-hat is, so that's over here. And we can play like this. That fell off. But you get the idea. Everything's sort of laid out in the right way. The snare's here in front of me. Tom 1 is up above it. Tom 2 is over there to the right a little bit. And then down there we've got floor tom. And down the bottom we've got bass drum. So hopefully that has helped you guys. Because I know a lot of you don't have drums at home. But there are plenty of ways we can make drums without drums. It's actually quite cool. It's one of the only instruments you can practice where you don't really need the instrument at home because of how far apart everything's laid out. Because you just need to move your hands and your feet to where they need to be, just like as if you were drumming at school. Alright, hope that's helped. Back to you, Black T-shirt Andy. Cool, okay. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Little guide on how to set up drums without drums. So now let's get into this sheet here. 10 drum beats with 1 bar drum fills, sheet 2. It's a bit of a mouthful, tongue twister. The first example has a really standard basic drum beat. It was so basic that it wasn't even on the basic rock drum beats sheet, which was the first video. So the first half of it goes like this. And then we get into the fill. Now, I mentioned before, but just to reiterate, all of the fills go snare, tom 1, tom 2, floor tom. I'm pretty sure every single fill on the sheet has that clockwise direction to it. Clockwise? Yeah, clockwise direction to it. So we're always going this way around the drum kit, which is quite a common way to do fills because you're kind of going from the drum that you're playing the most, and then you work your way down in pitch as you go to the larger drums, and then finish crashes or whatever, and then go back to playing beats. So this first fill goes... Okay, we've got 4 16th notes, 1 quarter note, 2 8th notes, and then 1 more quarter note. So da 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 da. So that's, if you remember back in the last video, we talked about how to divide the notes up when we're counting. So if we did that with the 1E and the 2E and all that sort of stuff, it would sound like 1E and a 2, 3 and 4. 1E and a 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so that's what that fill sounds like, except obviously without tom 2. I'll play it the whole way through now. Now I'm going to play it twice, a little bit faster. Cool. All right, on to the next one. So the next one starts, so this is number 2. It starts with almost the same beat as beat 1, as example 1. Except now we're adding in bass drums at the same time as we do the snares. So that's what this sounds like. This is what that sounds like. So can you see from maybe this camera here how when I'm playing the snares, I have to hit the bass drum as well. It's quite a cool beat to use for really like driving rock. So like really heavy guitar-based rock has kind of like that has a really strong driving force behind it. It's a cool beat. Then onto the, getting a little bit sidetracked, onto the fill, it goes da 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 da. So here's both of those together. you'll probably see me stumble at some points because I'm used to playing the Tom 2 for these sheets. Because generally we're at school when I'm teaching these sheets, and at all the schools I teach at, there are the Tom 2 on all the drum kits, so I'm used to going. So you'll probably see me like, whoops, accidentally might end up hitting the ride cymbal at some stage. Doesn't really have the same the right sound to it, I think. So we'll just keep playing on the Tom 1. So I'll play number 2 one more time. All right, number 3. So now for the beat, we kind of combine what we did in number 1 and number 2. So the first half of it is like this, where we don't have the bass drum on the snare drum, and then the second half we do have that bass drum on the snare drum. So altogether, the first half of number 3 goes like this. So you just add that bass drum onto the last snare there. The fill, the rhythm is 2/8 and then another 2/8. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 eighth notes, 4 16th notes, 1 quarter note at the end. Now the quarter notes are called quarter notes because they take up a quarter of the bar of the music that we're playing. Because I'm not sure if we mentioned that in the last video, because I'm not sure if we had any quarter notes, but we might have. So we go 8th, 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 16th, quarter. Yeah. It's Ba Ba Black Sheep, just by the way, if anybody knows that nursery rhyme. Ba Ba Black Sheep, have you any wool? Alright, so here's what number 3 sounds like the whole way through. I'll play it twice. Cool. Done. Now, number 4. We see some things that we haven't really seen before, but we have. They're just different. Let me explain, okay? I'm getting confused myself. So the hi-hats at the top look weird. They look different to the ones that we've seen, and the different to the ones that we've played in 1, 2, and 3. That's because there's no hi-hat when you play the bass drum. You can see it's got the little rest above the bass drum and above the snare drum. It's got little rests there. Just like we saw the rests in, I think they've been in all the sheets that we've played so far, both the filler up sheets and the basic rock drum beats sheet. That's the same thing applies. The rest is there to tell us not to play that certain part of the drum kit. Now the rests are up the top, so that means we don't play the hi-hats. So it's just a bass drum by itself, then a hi-hat by itself, then a snare drum by itself, then a hi-hat by itself, then a bass drum by itself. So they're all by themselves. They're not played together at any stage during this beat. So it sounds like this. There's a fly in here. Get out of the way. It goes like this. Bass, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat, bass, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat. So you can see how we're kind of separating everything out there. So that's what the first half of number 4 sounds like. The second half goes da 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 da. This is what it sounds like. Now, just before I start playing this, it's people always have trouble, and by people I mean me, from going back to the start after the end of this one, because you're so used to finishing a fill and then going straight to doing a bass drum and a hi-hat together to continue the beat or to repeat what you just played or whatever. But this one you have to go. So if I make a mistake there, that's why. It's because we're so used to going straight back to the hi-hats. So here's what number 4 sounds like. I went to the floor tom too early on that one. But the rhythm was right. Just making sure. I'm just making sure that everything's recording. It'll be a bit of a shame if we got this far in and realize that something wasn't working over here. Okay, so that's number 4 done. Now that beat is good to remember because later on in number 9, further down the sheet, we'll see it again. Okay, so is a good one to remember. Number 5, we've got the beat is pretty straightforward. We've seen that beat many times. It's the first one on basic rock drum beats, so hopefully it's something that most of you can play already, which is cool. Then the fill, we've got 4/16, 2 quarter notes, 4/16. 1 E and a 2, 3, 4 E and a 1 E and a 2, 3, 4 E and a. Here's what it sounds like all together. Number 5. All right, so that one is not too tricky at all, hopefully, because you're just going from really fast. Actually, the hardest part of that one is going from the fast notes, the 16ths, and then leaving the right amount of time in between the next 2 notes. That's why it's really handy to have that counting going on in your head. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because it tells you when to start playing the next group of notes. If you have that constantly going on in your head, then it gives you a really good idea of when you need to start playing each group of notes, if they're spread out in groups like that. That's why we count, to keep us in time. Then I could hear my neighbors like yelling and stuff. So if you can hear any of that through the microphones, just know that it's not like my household. It's someone down the street or next door that's like out in the yard having a great time. Because it's a nice sunny day, so fair enough if you be outside. All right, number 6, I think we're up to. Number 6, the first half of it is the same as the very first beat. With this sheet, the beats actually repeat. So number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The beats, not the fills, but the beats. So the first half, from number 6 through to number 10, we've already seen them on the sheet. So we should already have some idea of how they sound. So I'll probably just skim over them when we're doing 6 through 10, because we don't need to explain those beats again. You can just kind of go back. If you're struggling with them, you can go back to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fill for number 6, 2 eighth notes, then 8 16th notes, and then 1 quarter note. So 2 eighth notes, 8 16th notes, and then 1 quarter note. So it goes. Here's what that sounds like. Cool. Next one, number 7. The fill is 4 16th notes, 2 eighth notes, 1 quarter note, 2 16th notes, 1 eighth note. There's a lot to take in there. It's the first time we've seen a group of mixed notes. So we've got the last group in this one on the 4 count is 2 16ths and an eighth. So the fill sounds, as the rhythm is this. 1 E and a 2 and 3, 4 E and. Ba da 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 da. I think I missed a note there. But anyway, so it sounds like this. Which number is it? Yeah, so this is what it sounds like. Okay, on to number 8. The fill here is 4/16, 2/8, and then 2 quarter notes. So we've got fast, 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 normal, slow, slow. Da, 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 bop, bop. And just like the counting in, I think it was number 5, where the hardest part about it was leaving the right amount of time between, this one has 2 quarter notes, one after each other. So that's the hardest part of this one, is making sure you're playing those notes at the right time. Because some people say that it's really hard to play a lot of fast notes together, but it's actually a lot harder to play a lot of slow notes evenly, because you really have to be counting and paying attention to how close or far apart they are. Okay, so which one are we doing? Number 8. Da, 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 ba, ba. 1 knee and a 2 and 3, 4. 1 knee and a 2 and 3 and 4. I'm already up to number 8, and I'm still getting confused about not being a tom 2 there. I keep going like this, trying to hit the tom 2 that doesn't exist. All right, so number 8, twice in a row, sounds like this. Number 9. Number 9, we've got the same beat as number 4 again, the one where we separate things out. We've got bass, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat, bass, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat. Also known as the boots and cats beat, because you go boots and cats and 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 boots and cats and. Okay, it's a little tip for you. The fill. Now we've got 2 groups of those mixed 16ths and 8ths. So we go 8th, 8th, da da da, 8th, 8th, da da da. You can see the 16th notes there in the middle of, so on the 2 count and the 4 count. So we go 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. So number 9 sounds like this. All right, now onto the last one, onto number 10. Number 10, the fill is 3. So we've got 2 16th notes, 1 8th. Then we've got 4 16th notes. Then we've got the same thing again as the 1 count, which is 2 16ths and 1 8th, and then a quarter note to finish off. So we've got a group of 3, a group of 4, a group of 3, and a group of 1. Confusing. Ba, 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 ba. Now you can actually see in this one that even though they're all in different groups, you continue playing. If you're finishing one group with a certain type of note that also starts the next group, you just keep playing. There's no gap in between. So this one's actually got 2 16th notes at the start, 1 8th note, and then 6 16th notes, then 1 8th note, then a quarter note. You've probably figured this out by now because we're at number 10 on the sheet, but you don't stop in between each group. I'm just clarifying that for you, just in case you're wondering. I think we're losing a lot of light. It's getting quite dark quite early. I'm happy I've got these lights set up. Okay, number 10, the fill sounds like this. 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and 4. 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and 4. Okay, this is what beat 10 sounds like. Example 10. Cool. So that's the entire sheet done. You can see that there's kind of a it's quite samey. So it's the fills aren't that much different to each other, But what's really important for this sheet is to understand the rhythms and to be able to recognize the rhythms, so that when you see them elsewhere, like on other sheets, other beats, other fills, whatever, you can play them really easily. So we've got a combination of 16th notes, 8th notes, and quarter notes, which are the three probably most common lengths of notes that we use in drumming. So if you have a really good understanding of those notes or those rhythms, then it sets you up to do some really, really cool stuff. I contemplated not trying to do a run through of this sheet, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. If I make a mistake, I'll just start from whichever example I was up to. Okay, here we go. From the start, here we go. Oh, I got a little bit confused around what was it? Number 9. The end of number 9 started number 10 because I had just finished number 9, which means usually that you're going to play number 9 again because you repeat these ones. So after I went, I just automatically didn't do a bass drum. I didn't do a hi-hat, sorry. I know I was saying before that usually you accidentally do a hi-hat, but that time I was so conscious about not playing a hi-hat that I just accidentally didn't do it. Anyway, so that is 10 drum beats with 1 bar drum fills, sheet 2. The reason we jumped straight to sheet 2, don't think that you like missed the video or something. We jumped straight to sheet 2 because we've already covered a lot of the fills, or a lot of basic fills in the filler up sheets, the last 2 videos. So that's why we're onto sheet 2 already, because the sheet 1 just went over a lot of the same ideas that were in the sheets that we've already done. Okay, sheet 2 is a little bit more advanced with more interesting beats and more interesting fills. So I hope it's been useful for you. I hope that you guys are managing to get a little bit of practice in. If you can, I hope that my guide to how to build a drum kit without drums was useful, and I don't want you to damage anything in your household. So if you're hitting things that aren't drums, be really careful, and that you make sure that you're keeping everything nice and safe and non-damaged in your house, so that everybody can live a happy life during this lockdown. Anyway, that'll do for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Hope everybody's staying safe and well. Look after everybody around you, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later, guys.